Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be looking at the social media, phenom that was Take 2 Steps Forward, but this is going to be the male edition. Now you've probably seen it on some platform. I know it was put out on TikTok, Instagram, and it's definitely on YouTube because it's got a few 100 million views, I believe. And in this video there's a PE teacher or something, I don't know, physical education teacher, I don't know what you call it in the US. But this guy's like lined all the kids up on the line, and he's like, look, take 2 steps forward if your parents are still together. Take 2 steps forward if, and by the ends, they've got some kids on the line that are underprivileged and the kids at the front that are like trust fund kids. Well, I wanted to do a male edition, and I'm going to guide you through the things now, but here's the system that we're going to use, okay? So we're going to be running a marathon. I think that's representative of a man's life. I think it's a long slog. It's not exactly a sprint like a female life. It's a long slog, and we need to grind it out in order to get to the finish line and get what we require. Now, the second thing I want to put into play is that you're going to be wearing at the start a 100 kg vest. I know it sounds silly, but it's going to make sense as it goes forward. It's very metaphorical, this video. You're wearing a 100 kg vest or bodysuit, whatever, but let's just say vest because everyone knows what it is. And every time, the 2 step forward thing, every time you get that moment, you're going to strip 5 kg from that vest so it becomes easier to run. Now, I think that's symbolic of a man's life. You're wearing a 100 kg vest at the start of your life. Things are very hard. As I've told you guys before, for a man at the start of life, it's difficult. And then as you move forward in life, things get taken off, okay? And these are things that can definitely hold you back. Now, the aim is to have none of the weights left on your body, or as little as possible, in order to make progression easier. So let's get started. So number one, obviously, the first few are going to be all in order just to make it make sense, and then after that, they're quite random, okay? But number one is good genetics. So I think it's obvious that, most people with good genetics end up failing in life because they get lazy, okay? There's another aspect, but it's undoubtedly going to make your life better if you're born 6'4", Norwegian-looking motherfucker with, strongman genes. If you naturally just look like that and you have a deep voice, high testosterone naturally, theoretically your life should be easier. You're carrying 5 kg less than the next man. And we see that off the line. Because kids with the best genetics, who are the best at sports and stuff like that, we see that in the early stages of life. They kind of progress a little bit quicker. They kind of move forward, or their life is a little bit better. Those guys are getting more women. Those guys are more popular. Those guys are invited to more parties. At the start, we see that, okay? So if you had good genetics, take 5 kg off of your 100 kg vest. Number 2 is rich parents. Now, undoubtedly, again, if you've got rich parents, life's easier, but a lot of kids with rich parents don't seem to excel. They don't do well. But they're always going to inherit that money at some point, and in the early days, they don't have to struggle. Like, I used to work with a guy that said that he had a lump sum at 21 given to him by his father. Okay, I have no problem with that. His dad obviously worked hard at some point, right? If he wants to do that for his son, so be it. It doesn't bother me. But when I say lump sum, like us, we'd all think there was maybe 5, 10, 20,000 tops. I think this was closer to like a couple 100,000 or a couple million, which is insane, right? So how are you supposed to compete with that? Somebody like me, for example, who grew up with no money, you're going to have to, I'm going to have to work from like 18 to maybe like 35 to get that 2-3 million lump sum that he had at 21. Do you see what I mean? So you're already like 14 years behind just based on that. So if you had rich parents, strip another 5 kg off your vest. Now, the third one is if you're smart or creative. Now, if you're super smart, you can figure shit out. People are always going to hire you. You can create a success story of your own through your own ideas. It doesn't always have to be the case. Sometimes you can be creative, okay? Like, I'm not very smart. I'm just very creative. And if you have either of those, you're always going to make money in some capacity. So if you're known to be the smart or creative, take another 5 kg off your vest. Now, the fourth one is high work rate. So I think a lot of high work rate, I think it comes from sports. I think anybody who's done sports when they were young is more likely to be successful in the future. because they know what it's like to be losing by a lot with 20 minutes to go and then come back and win, or you know what, get beat even more, and then they take that on the chin. They come back next week and they rebuild, they grow, you know, or be in a game which is tough. Stamina is like the most important thing in this game. The weather conditions are bad and you literally just have to keep running and running and running. It builds a different mindset, and I think people that have a higher work rate. But with that being said, a high work rate will allow you to be in better shape, be more successful, probably be more successful with women because it's an attractive trait. You know, all the things that men want in their life, you know, be a better dad, all this shit. High work rate will really help you. So if you've got a high work rate, take another 5 kg off your vest. See, at this point, life should be getting a bit easier. Now, number 5 is if you're single right now. If you're single right now, take 5 kg off your vest. I've explained this before in many videos. Men who are single are more likely to be successful because they just have more time, more money. They can make decisions for them. They can be selfish. So if you're single right now or intend to be single for the next 10 years, 15, 20 years, whatever, then take 5 kg off your vest. Now the next one is don't watch porn. If you watch porn, you know you're gonna waste a lot of time. It's gonna change you up here. You're not gonna be thinking clearly. I think it's gonna drain your energy. I think dopamine wise is not great. You're not gonna be at your optimal as a man. It's gonna destroy your testosterone as well. So if you don't watch porn, take another 5 kg off your vest. Now number 7 is waking up early. If you're able to get up early at 5 a.m. every day, even on weekends, maybe 6 a.m. on weekends, and you're not lying in bed till like midday or let's say even 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. If you're getting up at 5, so I got a neck ache from the weights. If you're waking up at like 5, 6 a.m., you're going to be more productive. You're going to use the hours of daylight wiser. You know, you're going to be in that cycle where the circadian rhythm, where you're going to be in that cycle of your body's going to get its best optimal performance. And if you look at billionaires and millionaires and their habits, nearly all of them get up early. So the next one is, do you stay in on weekends? If you're staying in on weekends, I've done a video on this before, you've got a gigantic chance of becoming successful because in the week you just don't get time. You know, I used to sit at work back in the day and be like, you know, it was midday, I was eating my lunch and I'd be like, when I get home, I'm going to work so hard on my business because I was motivated. By the time I got home, I was like, I'm so tired. It was like 8 o'clock at night. I was like, I don't really want to work now. But I'd still do an hour or two. I'd force myself, but it was never good work. You know, it was just a little bit here, a little bit there. The weekend is the key. So if you're getting in on Friday night and you're going out and you're getting drunk, and then on Saturday you're waking up about 1, 2 o'clock and you're hungover and you can't be bothered to do anything, you're eating junk food, watching Netflix, and then Saturday you go out again, you know, or even if you don't, you've kind of already fucked up your weekend, okay? Like, treat your body and your business and your goals and whatever you're trying to achieve like a military operation. Take it more seriously than you do. So Friday, you finish work, 5, 6 o'clock, whatever. You get home, you need to think to yourself, okay, I need to get everything done and I need to have an early night because Saturday and Sunday is so important to me, it's going to change my life. So get to bed, 10 o'clock, back up, Saturday morning, 6 a.m., hour in the gym, back home, 12-hour day on your business. You know, so that's what I mean. If you're staying in on weekends and you're not spending money on alcohol, you're not taking women out, you're not just chilling with your friends for the sake of it, and you're using your weekends wisely, then take 5 kg off your vest because it's a massive, massive advantage. Now, the next one is if you've already not had or you're planning not to have children before 30, take 5 kg off your vest because children will lose you. You know, if you've got children, you're probably going to have a wife or a partner or a girlfriend, whatever. You're going to have a lot of time and probably each child from 0 to 18 costs about £250,000 to raise, okay? So if you have one kid, $250,000 gone. I don't think I need to say more for that advantage. So take 5 kg off your vest if that's what you plan to do. Now the second one is no children before 40. It's not as big an advantage as the 31, even though I'm using the 5 kg measurement, which is the same thing. But if I were to change it, I'd probably make the 31 10 kg and the 41 maybe 5. But they're both 5, okay? And the reason I say before 40 is because most men don't have their highest earning years until 40 to 50. And most men, you know, in their 20s, they're learning, 30s, they're getting into their stride. By the time they hit 40, things have really opened up. They're galloping like a horse on a racetrack, okay? they have momentum. They can take weekends off and still earn money, all right? Or they're in a 9 to 5 job and they're making more money than ever. Like, they're at a point where they can have kids, they can afford them and stuff. But that's why I say to use your 30s as well. So if you're not having kids before 40, if you had a kid on the day that you turn 40, now from 20 to 40, that big 20-year chunk, the first one, the 10 years that I said, that's a major advantage. Huge, because you don't have a lot of money in that period. But the second one, do you know what? Thinking of it, it could be more important because you've got so much money in that time period. From 30 to 40, a man is going to be earning a lot more than he did in his 20s. If you're reinvesting that and working on a business, and you're more experienced, and you're sharper, you know more, it could be the most effective period of your life. So anybody who's not had kids before they're 40 or is not planning, because my audience is a lot younger, then take another 5 kg off, because that is going to accelerate your life massively. The next one is lifting heavy weights. So if you're not lifting heavy weights, then fair enough, right? Is what it is what you want to do. Any sort of training will help. But if you're not lifting heavy weights, then you're seriously ruining a giant advantage that men can have. Giant advantage. It's so easy for men to just pick up heavy shit, eat well, bulk a little, and just get a bit bigger. Eventually you'll cut that off, right? You can cut the fat, etc. But just to have a bigger general size, regardless of height, if you're 5 foot tall or 8 foot tall, if you just put on some muscle and you just pack yourself out and you look a little bit better. Recently in the comments, a lot of people have said you've been doing the neck training and whatever, and I've gone from 80 kilograms to 96, and people are like, oh, it makes you look more dominant. I can see it clearly from your old video to your new video. It gives you a major advantage over men in a business sense. It gives you a giant advantage with women. Most guys that are like, oh, getting in the gym sucks. Getting in the gym, women aren't interested in that. Girls don't like guys who are too muscular. That always comes from guys that have never been in the gym, okay? That have never done it. From experience, any guy who has got bigger, put on some muscle, put on 2-3 stone, 20 odd kilograms, 30, 40 odd pounds, they will all tell you the same story. It made a huge difference. I got more women. I had more respect from men. Put it this way, right? It's probably the easiest thing that any man can do with very little money to give themselves in life a giant advantage. So why not do it? And if you're lifting heavy weights right now, or you've got a plan in January, I think you should just start immediately, but obviously gyms are closed, so this year I'll give you a pass. But if you're planning to do that, or you're already doing it, or at some point in your life you've done it and you just kind of continue that size game, take another 5 kg off, because your life is going to be easier and better. Now the next one is not intending to get married. And it's under the same rule set that I said about fitness. If you're intending not to get married, or if you haven't got married yet and you're not intending to do it, and although you're already older and you're at an age where most people probably would have got married, well, it's a giant advantage, because the bill is massive and half of your net worth can potentially be slashed, and that's going to fuck up your progression, your life in general. You're limiting your options of women down to one. I'd hope so if you did get married that you'd limit it to one, but that's what you're doing. You're limiting it to one guaranteed. Okay, that's a guarantee. You're stuck on one woman. It's not the most fun life in the world. She could be the best possible woman, but without dodging the PC, with dodging the PC aspect here and not worrying about it too much, it is a diminishing asset. I'm not sure. I just don't think it really makes sense, okay? So if you're not intending to get married, because I just do think it's a fool's game, the cost up front, the potential cost of divorce, and the limited aspects to it, take off another 5 kg, because you're going to have a better life without it. Okay, so the next one is pets. And, pets are lovely. You can have so much fun with pets, but you're going to have to walk them twice a day. Let's say if you've got a dog or something, you have to walk it twice a day. If you've got a cat, yeah, you might have to walk it, but you're probably going to get bills, because cats go outside all the time. They get hit by cars and all sorts. Somebody I know just had that happen, okay? And it was like, oh, this is going to cost $4,000. You don't need that. Nobody needs that. And even if that doesn't happen, you've got the injections. You've got the routine vet appointments. You've got, they've got toothache. Like, these pets are a nightmare, and all the food. And we better buy a toy or two. Or at Christmas, people buy the cats and dogs presents. It's madness. Absolute madness. So if you don't have any pets, another 5 kg. So take that off. Okay, and the next one is small social group. So if you've got a small social group, historically, people with a small social group have tended to be more successful. And I think this comes from not having so many people to please. You know, you get girls that are like, oh, I haven't seen my friend from school for 2 years. We're going to meet up and have a coffee. You know, guys would just be like, fuck that bloke. Haven't seen him in forever. I don't really care how he's getting on. You know, but girls, they want to meet up all the time. And I think if you've got a large social group where you're trying to satisfy like 20, 30 people at once, you're going to lose so much time and money as well. It's not going to work out. You need to be selfish. 2 or 3 close friends, and that's all you need as a man. Now, the next one is low bills. If you've got astronomical bills, and this doesn't matter based on earning potential, okay, or how much you earn. If you're on 100 grand a year or 20 grand a year, it doesn't matter. Your bills need to be low. Okay, somebody who's on 20 grand a year could be financially way better off than somebody who's on 100 grand a year if they just spend the money on the right things, save as much as possible, have the money available to invest when opportunities pop up or put into a business or something, you know. That person will always be financially better off if they're making better decisions. And if you've got high bills and you're earning, let's say, 5,000 a month and you're showing off and you're going out and you're spending, etc., and your bills are astronomical, you're living in a place you can't afford, you're trying to fund a life that you can't really afford, or you can, but you're really pushing it to its limit, then you're fucked. That's another 5 kg that's going to be added onto your body if you're trying to do that, okay? That's all your life. You're carrying that weight with you. So if you don't do that, and then let me go back because I didn't mention it on the others. I want to clarify each one. So if you don't have pets, take another 5 kg off. If you have a small social group, take another 5 kg off. And if you've got low bills, then take another 5 kg off, okay? Now the next one is a clean criminal record. Now I understand that somebody could have a criminal history and let's say they managed to make 200 grand selling drugs and nobody found out and they use that to fund a business. That's a huge shortcut. But what I said here was clean criminal record. So that would mean that that person didn't get caught. Now I'm not saying go and do crimes and don't get caught, but what I'm saying is it really worth it? Because the thing is, if you do get caught and then you have to come out, you know, and get a 9-to-5 job or something in order to, you know, you could go back to what you were doing, but it's just a risk, right? If you're serious about building a business or having a more successful life where those blue lights aren't chasing you everywhere and you can be left alone, then you're probably going to have a 9-to-5 job at some point to fund everything. It's not nice, but you're going to have to do it, okay? We've all done it. Everybody who wants to get somewhere in life has to go and do something they don't want to do to then achieve the life that they want. And if you've got a clean criminal record, this will allow you to get a better job. This will allow you to get into the workplace easier and quicker. You know, as much as I said money doesn't matter within a scale, okay? So like 20,000 compared to 100,000, you can make up for that. But if the only job that you can get is like voluntary work, then you're fucked. If the only job you can get is minimum wage at McDonald's, you can do it, but it's going to be way tougher. It's going to be way, way tougher, okay? If you don't have a criminal record, you've got a little bit about you, you're trying to start a business, you can easily earn 30 to 50,000. Easily. Anybody can. You move to the right city, you can get that money easily. Now, 40 grand a year is going to make a giant difference to somebody who's a super saver. That's going to feel more like 200 grand a year, okay? With the money that you're going to have left over. So keep a clean criminal record. It's a lot easier. So if you've got a criminal record, keep 5 kg on your body. If it's going to expire soon, then maybe take it off. But anybody with a clean criminal record, take that 5 kg off. Your life just got easier. The next one is knowing what you want to do in life. I didn't realize how important this was until I moved to London and started speaking to a lot of people that have been in like the world of finance for 10 years. And I'm like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'll just sit in front of the TV and watch Netflix. I was shocked. I thought everybody was trying to do something, but the majority of people just have no idea. I was lucky that I got to 21 and I knew exactly what I want to do, which was 1STMAN in so many words. And I built that via MSI College. Obviously, I had to change the name when it all got deleted. But I knew what I wanted to do. And I know today, even more so, it's even more clear now what I want to do and how I want to build this business. I'm lucky. You know, that's fantastic. That's given me a major advantage, and I can take 5 kg off my vest because I have direction and focus. You know, if you don't have that, it's going to be harder because you're going to have to spend maybe 5-10 years figuring out what you like, or maybe starting a business that you think is going to be successful, but you don't really have a passion for. and then it ends up failing, and then you find something you do like. You know, it's wasted time, wasted years. You're going to learn from that, but it's wasted time. If you get it right first time, you know what you want to do, it's easier. You have a clear direction, okay? So if that's you, take 5 kg off. Now the next one is zero dependence. Now this is similar to kids, but it's a little bit different. So I knew a kid growing up that had to look after his mum night and day. He was her full-time carer, okay? He couldn't do a lot. If we wanted him to come out and stuff and go out for drinks, he couldn't. He had to get somebody to sit with his mum or put her to bed first, and then he could come out. But then even then he had to be up in the morning. You know, it's that sort of scenario. And imagine trying to start a business and every 5 minutes she's like ringing the bell and you've got to go and get her food or take her to the toilet and wipe her ass. Like, that's hard, man. That's hard. That's like a full-time carer job around what you're trying to do anyway. You know, and you'll probably get paid for that, but imagine trying to balance that with, like, you're trying to start a business, you're trying to go to the gym, and it, like, that's nobody's fault, but you're going to have 5 kg weighing on you there. That's tough until that situation expires, right? So if you don't have any dependence in that scenario, take 5 kg off. Now the next one is limited tech or entertainment usage. So these are the people that are just watching Netflix. They're spending hours and hours just looking at their phone. They're just on social media. They're just flicking through, you know, just scrolling on Instagram for hours and hours and on end. These sort of people, they're not very motivated, but they're not going to do too well in life, okay? They're sat in bed, just Netflix, what's on? Oh, I'll binge this whole series today. I'm going to have a lazy day. That's 5 kg weighing you down because you've got a tech addiction. You've got a dopamine addiction. You know, they probably got the porn thing as well. But just for this case study or this example, if you're the type of guy who doesn't do that shit, who puts something on net, like for me, I'll sit down, I'm like, do you know what? I've worked my balls off for a month. Let's reward myself. Netflix. And I go, fuck, I'm going to go and lift some weights. Like, I just cannot do it. It's just not built into my brain. Like, I just get bored shitless. I try, and if I'm eating, it's easy because I know I have to finish that food. But the second I'm finished, I'm like, nah, I'll turn it off. I'm going to go back and do some work or something. If you have my mindset, take 5 kg off. Don't add 5 kg or leave 5 kg on that vest. Now the final one is no mortgage. Now a lot of people think, and I'm explaining this in a video soon, that if you've got properties, you're set. It's not true. It's not true at all, and I'll break it down in a proper video, okay? But if you've got a mortgage, you're kind of tied into those payments. If you've paid it off in full, maybe not. Maybe that's different. Maybe in that scenario you take 5 kg off, okay? But if you've still got mortgage payments every single month and you can't escape them, you know, that's tough. You know, obviously you could put the house up for sale and stuff and then you get some money back. It's a bit different, but it's dead money. It's a defensive move, which is a video I'm doing soon. That money's just sat there, stagnant. Oh yeah, my property went up by 15,000 in value, so I've actually gained equity. It's like, yeah, but that took 17 years. You know, like realistically, that took 7 years. So in 7 years you earned 10 grand. That's shit. That's terrible money, okay? So a mortgage, excuse me, a mortgage is actually a liability until you've paid it off or you're selling it or whatever. Now, if you've got a mortgage on a property and you're renting it, that's different. Take 5 kg off because you've got a secondary income. That's fantastic, okay? But if you've got a mortgage, let's say you've got a wife or kids or whatever, and you've got a mortgage and you're paying those payments every single month, you're trapped. Now, if you were renting and you lived on your own and you were like, I need more money, you can always scale down, go somewhere shitter. It takes a month to do that. Mortgage, I mean, do you really want to move your kids out of the area? Is your wife going to be okay with that? Is your girlfriend going to be okay with that? It's difficult. It's really, really difficult. So if you don't have a mortgage, guys, at the moment, take 5 kg off. You're free. You know, you've got more money. You've got more options. You've got that freedom. You can scale down whenever you want. Makes it a lot easier. But that's it, guys. So that's my list, okay? So I don't know where you are on that list, but you start with the 100 kg vest and you're trying to finish a marathon as a man. And throughout your life, you make things easier for yourself by giving yourself advantages. Because we all start at the bottom as men. And if you were able to strip enough of those 5 kg weights off, see what you're left with. You know, for me personally, because right now my dad's ill, so that's 5 kg. And the other one, I don't have rich parents, which is somewhat irrelevant now because obviously there's money coming in. So it's like it doesn't really matter. But it's taken like 8 years, 9 years to get to where, like I said, my friend was from the start. So it's somewhat of a 5 kg weight. But for me, I'm carrying 10 kg. I'm carrying 10 kg of weight right now that affects my life, okay? Some people, if they're having the first kid, the second kid, the mortgage, the marriage, everything that goes with that, they're not lifting weights. They're trying to complete a marathon with about roughly 80 kg, with an 80 kg vest on. Like, it makes it harder to be in shape, to have a good life, to be successful, to have money, to have the things that you want, to have the time to execute on your plans, to be happy, you know? They're getting weighed on by all this shit, and they never actually complete their marathon by the time they get to the end of their life. Or they do, but they do it in a much slower fucking time. You know, they're like 80 and it finally all comes together. But if you take all those weights off, like I said, it becomes easier. It makes life easier for a man. And then secondary to that, you can do it quicker. You can get an unbelievable time as a man. I know it's all metaphors here, but I believe it's making sense to you guys. But you can complete your marathon in like 3 hours, you know, which might be like 30 years old, okay? 32, 33 years old. Now you've accomplished everything you wanted to do. Your life's set up. You're a millionaire. You're in great shape. You know, life's easy for you now. Whereas someone else is, all that shit's on them, and they have to take a rest. They have to take a break. They're just sat there and they're just like, I'm tired. I can't be bothered. And then that energy dwindles and it gets even harder to finish. And that's called aging. You know, if we think about life like that, where you've got this 100 kg vest on and you make it easier for yourself by stripping various amounts. It doesn't have to be 5 kg. You get what I mean? You know, like I said, a kid, I think, is like having 20 kg on. I think if you just took, you know, I think that just makes it far easier automatically. But if we're going to use just 5 kg as the metaphor and you're stripping these off, it makes your life so much easier, like I said, and you can get shit done quicker, and then you're set up. You hit that male advantage at like 36. And here's the thing, nobody gets this. Nobody accomplishes this in the male world. Or like I'm saying, very few, like 1% of men will get this, okay? Where they're rich and successful, they're in shape, they're young, and they're still good looking. You know, and they're mature enough. They're in that middle bracket where they're mature enough to understand shit and be a leader in society, but they're not too old or too young either side where they're starting to deteriorate and lose their mind, or too young where they're immature and they're doing stupid shit. You're in like this perfect middle bracket where all of these peaks happen at once. You know, muscle mass and bone density peak at like 30, and then it continues if you're lifting weights, right? Or maintain if you're lifting weights and stuff, if you've been doing it for a long time as well. So you hit like this 36 bracket and you've got everything. So there's a lot of guys that are 50 years old and multi-millionaires, but they've got a big beer belly and they look terrible. You know, they look about 100 years old. There's plenty of guys that have got a six-pack at 18, but they've got no money. Like, it's very rare that you hit that middle line where it's like you've got all the money, all the appearance, and youth all at once. Like, we've all seen that chart where it's like, you know, in your 20s, or it says youth. It says you've got energy, no money, but loads of time. And then it's like in middle age you have, I think it's like middle line energy, or it could, yeah, middle line energy, or high energy. Sorry, it's high energy, no time, loads of money. And then on the final one, it's you've got no energy, loads of time, and loads of money. You know, so like at each stage you lose something and you gain something else, and they try and make out that you can't have it all at once. I think I've done that right. Might just bring up a picture to make it easier. But based on my strategy and what I've told you guys there, if you stay tie-free early on and you strip those 5 kg weights off as a man, you do get to like 36 years old and you have the time, you have the energy, you have the money, you have youth because you've worked on yourself. You know, there's no 36 shouldn't be losing your youth. That should be prime time for a man. I find that insane when people say that shit. But you should have everything at once, and you should be the holistic man. And then you get to experience what life's like on top of that social hierarchy pyramid. Like, that's the only time as a man you have everything at once, like from 30 to 45, around about that bracket, as long as you stay in shape. If you can make that happen during those years by sacrificing your 20s and your early 30s, and by staying tie-free, like all the things that I mentioned, well, you're off to the races.